All right, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Chop It Up with P. Scott. I'm Prescott. Kelly. Today is Friday, June 30th. Glad to have you back with us. ESPN layoffs, where was right, where was even more right. Resignings that I thought would happen and did, because sports sims can't tell the difference between what you're being told and what's reality. And is Mike Evans a Hall of Famer? That and a whole lot more, whatever you guys want to talk to. I got some time on my hands. But I want to start with first, we'll get into the ESPN layoffs because there's been a lot, and the more that we get into this, the more there are. But Neil Everett was just the stepping stone into all of these things happening, which I brought up like 2 weeks ago. And now the snow, like the avalanche is coming down. But regardless, put your comments into the chat section where you're, regardless if you're on YouTube, Facebook Live, whatever you want to do, however you're listening, please put it in there and we'll get to you as soon as possible. What I want to do first, though, before we get into those types of topics, is Mike Evans. I was scrolling through my socials today and I saw, is Mike Evans a Hall of Famer if he hangs it up today? Now, again, if you're not a Bucks fan or if you're not a Mike Evans fan, and if you want to go ahead and just kind of dip out, you can. I hope you don't. But it brings up an interesting question because he's the first player in NFL history to have 9 1,000-yard consecutive seasons. So if you hang it up, is he a Hall of Famer? And sometimes what we get into is that it depends on what we want to describe what is a team sport, right? We do this as far as it's a team sport, the wide receiver doesn't make the quarterback or vice versa, or the O-line isn't any good. How can the quarterback be good if the O-line isn't good or if the weapons aren't good? Like it's all accumulative. It really is. So when it comes to Mike Evans, that's kind of where my lineage is on this, is that he's had Brady for 3 years, but his first few years, his first like 7 years in the league was Jameis Winston. Yeah, that dog threw it up to you all the time. You got your numbers, but you guys didn't win. All you had to do was replace that 30 for 30 special with Jameis Winston with Tom Brady, and you guys won a Super Bowl with almost the exact same roster, too. It's bananas. So, yes, I can understand why some people would say he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer because of only the reason of you only won a Super Bowl because you had Brady. And I can understand the argument, and I would be willing to hear that. But also given the fact that that roster before Brady got there was trash. Not the year beforehand, the year beforehand, if that makes sense to you guys. Because when Brady got there, they didn't have a whole lot of turnover. So what Mike Evans has dealt with his entire career is incompetent quarterback or quarterback who doesn't play the way that Mike Evans needs to play. And it can be both, right? It can be incompetent quarterback, put up stats. We love guys who put up stats. And we always go back to, well, what did you ever do? The only thing right now that is holding on by a thread for Mike Evans to get into the Hall of Fame, as if he hung it up today, is strictly the fact that he has one Super Bowl. But again, we always go back to you only got it because of Brady. Is it a team sport or is it not? We love doing this. We want to say it's a team sport when it's a team that we enjoy. We want to say it's a team sport when it's a player that we elevate. Mike Evans is one of those dudes that we don't really put in that pantheon of one of the greatest wide receivers ever, which I guess I understand that. I don't consider him one of the greatest quarterback or one of the greatest wide receivers ever. I don't. But if he's the only person ever to have 1,000 yards in every single season that he's been in the league, That's a pretty impressive stat, right? So what is the difference? Quarterback play. You can get your numbers all you want to. And that's kind of where Mike Evans is. He's got over 10,000 yards. He's in that top 50. So you have to put him in somewhat of that realm of he needs to be at least recognized as one of the best wide receivers ever, right? Especially because most of what he did was with Jameis Winston. All right. I will never tell you what to think. I'm just asking that you do. So when I see Mike Evans, is he a first ballot Hall of Famer? And most of the comments that I got from my page today was he just needs to play longer. Well, why? All of his best years are behind him. Why does he need to play longer? Just a stat pad? I thought we frowned upon stat padding. I thought we frowned upon just playing just to play. Like longevity matters, don't get me wrong, it does. But for that to be the overall, that's the end all be all of how great you are, is how long you played. Gale Sayers needs to have a word with you. Because when Gale Sayers was playing, his career was like what, 6, 7 years long, period. But there was a point in time where he was considered the best football player on the planet. And his career was really short. These things happen. And I'm not saying that obviously they're the same two people because they're obviously not. They don't play the same position, they don't play in the same era, all that noise. And I get it. But what I am saying though, Mike Evans to do this for 9 straight years at least needs to put him in the conversation. I don't think I'm being too off topic about that. The biggest thing is, had he not wasted 80% of his career with Jameis Winston, that's people don't want to talk about that though. You see the stats, yeah, he's a first ballot. Or you've only got the one ring and it's only because of Brady. We're going to judge one thing or another. We always do this. But we can't just sit back and just enjoy the greatness. To me, Mike Evans is one of the best wide receivers I've ever seen. Size, speed, catch radius, catching ability, route running, everything. I mean, it's not his fault, and it's not my fault that he played basically with Jameis Winston for more than 80% of his career. But such is the life that we live. All right, so I had an episode. God, I swear to God, man, over the past 2 or 3 weeks, I've had some really wild moments in my life where it's tough being right all the time. I try not to be that guy, but I'll put it out in the universe sometimes because most sports fans don't know what it feels like to just slow down. Whatever happens right now is the best or the worst, or whatever's being reported is the accurate truth. And it's not. It's just not. So when it comes to NBA re-signings, I had brought up this was 6 days ago. Draymond Green, he opts out. Oh, he's going to Lakers. And I said, why don't you guys just hold your horses for just a moment? He might resign. And the deal that he signed is almost exactly what I proposed on the previous episode. Almost to a T, because I don't get invested in this. I don't care about your fans. I don't care about your sports. I like Bills football, as you can see right behind me, but I'm not obsessed by it. This is something where if you actually want to keep these things in the back of your mind, and if you really want to understand what the sports business world is and not what you think it is, this is a show for you. And so is David Sampson on the Nothing Personal podcast. Like, he talks about sports. Now that he's not in that space anymore, all he does is tell you the dirty secrets that you don't want to hear as fans. But it's the truth. It's the truth. But so we get to these signings today, and Draymond Green wasn't supposed to re-sign with the Warriors. And I told you guys, just because he opts out doesn't mean he's not going there. And he did. Chris Middleton opted out with the Bucks. And I told you guys, stay pat. He's probably going back. And he did. Kyrie Irving. This wasn't something on my podcast, but I thought internally, I didn't say this out loud. So if you don't want to take my word for this, that's fine. But I thought that he might go back to Dallas, and he did. And he signed a max extension. Now, I did not see that coming. That's that's a pretty that's a pretty big chunk of change. But we always come back to this. Nobody would ever leave this particular squad, or if they do opt out, that means they're completely done. No, there's restructuring all the time. We see guys, women too, but we also largely pay attention to the NBA, NFL, MLB. So that's my talking point right now. So I'm not trying to talk out of both sides of my mouth. But whenever anybody opts out of anything, we want to be the first person to have our own take. We want to be the first person who is first on the interwebs to say this guy's done and they're leaving someplace else. And that's not always the case. Draymond back, Chris Middleton back, Kyrie back. That's weird because last time I checked, from all the quote unquote experts and all the people on the socials, said they'll never be back. Well, once again, it's tough being wrong when you're on the interwebs, but it's tough being right when you're not. All right. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and move on. So ESPN has gotten rid of a lot of employees recently. And I think that might be one of the reasons why I'm kind of getting in this mode right now. Is I'm part of a recent downgrade in, production, or whatever you want to call it, whatever management wants to call it. Wherever you work, they'll label it something different. And now I'm part of it. And I don't like saying that. I don't like being a part of it. But I told you guys weeks ago, and it's tough being ahead of the curve all the time. When Neil Everett was let go from ESPN 2-3 weeks ago, he's done. He's done, and everybody else is on the chopping block. And those things happen. The ESPN is still going to be fine without him. But the reason why I said that they did this is not because of anything that has anything to do with the quote unquote talent that they have. It's got nothing to do with the talent there. It has everything to do with the fact that what they're doing is paying these football analysts $11 million a year, and nobody cares. All I hear and all I read all the time is Tony Romo's, I don't want to watch a game with him. Troy Buckets, Troy Aikman's, I can't stand whoever. But you still watch the games. The reason why ESPN is in this predicament right now is they're paying out for everybody, and they're going to bring on Pat McAfee. That's the reason why they are where they are right now. And that's the reason why other dudes are getting left. I've had so many people in mentions like try and make me feel like I'm stupid. I had somebody, I won't say their name because I never do this. I never say somebody's name when they say some ignorant that I don't agree with. So I won't do it. But I had somebody say, whoever thought that X person would get fired? Who didn't think this would happen? Dude, Everybody. Sorry to go back. I sorry like this guy really got this dude has to be a fucking bot because like he's got to be worked up right now. What he basically said was what they're doing is freeing up space for McAfee, which I'm assuming is true. But he also said they're letting go of all the highest paid employees. And I thought, well, don't you think that Stephen A. Smith would be let go? Because he wasn't. Spoiler alert. Just think about it. Just think about it for a moment. If you're trying to free up space for McAfee, why wouldn't you get rid of Stephen A. Smith? Why wouldn't you get rid of they got rid of Max Kellerman, which to me, look, I'm not a big Max Kellerman fan. I'm really not. To me, he brings me nothing. But once again, I'm in that same kind of boat. So maybe I don't bring anything to the table as well. Stephen A. Smith is basically Max Kellerman. They contradict each other all the time. There's not a whole lot of like real analysis. All it is just being loud and boisterous and yelling at each other. And some people like that. That's not me though. But this is where we are now. And Neil Everett, I told you guys weeks ago. Neil Everett, when he was done, everybody was on the chopping block. Every single person. Now, obviously, they're not going to get rid of every single person, but they're there for a reason, though. Anyway, all right, you guys, know the drill. Stay up, stay blessed. Talk to you guys in the next one.